What's up? Welcome out. Golden Boys
yo.
Podcast, episode 10, I believe. Who freaking knows? We got special guests in the house. Behr, Peter Hainsworth.
What's up, man?
That is the name, right?
It is, yeah.
I want to make sure.
Super good friend, Hainsworth.
Hainsworth, you sure
Super
about
No.
good
I didn't double check it before you got here.
It's okay.
But I thought I remembered.
I saw the
but I didn't want
eyebrows.
to come in with like ultra confidence and be wrong.
I think I would have liked that.
You know, Peter Hemsworth hanging
There
out
you
with us
go.
today.
Yeah.
Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Got the wrong accent.
Yeah. Well, you know, that is Australian is my favorite accent.
So if you had it,
Okay.
I think North Dakota might be mine.
No, it's terrible.
straight face.
Well, we got these guys here. They have a podcast called the Ridgeline Leadership Podcast, talking all about being good leaders, creating great culture in your company. We recommend it. Go check them out. They've got just started doing video recently.
Yep.
Doing some
Did.
video podcasts.
Following
But
the Golden Boys.
yeah,
Visual's good.
you know, it looks great.
Yeah.
We had Blake on last episode, and we were chatting about some of the stuff that you had written down in your book. Apparently, I had
You wrote it, yeah.
Apparently, I wrote it.
Apparently, you ghost wrote my book, which
Yeah.
was great.
So, but yeah, we touched on some things in there. We touched on a few things about tough decisions, hard conversations, stuff like that, and that all came about because. Excuse me. That all came about because Jonathan actually watched a podcast that you guys did on that.
Yeah.
And it really came at the perfect time.
It did.
We were dealing with some stuff in the company. If you want to know the details, watch the last episode.
There you go.
Because you're not going to get it here. Because this is about a different topic.
Yes.
Continuing the conversation,
Yeah.
some might
I
say.
like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's... so you guys talked about it first on yours. That was episode 1. And then we did episode 1.5
1.5.
for ours. And then we got to get the semantics right here. So
Yeah.
1.75.
1.75 starting now.
Okay.
Let's dive in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, so there's no outline. There's no nothing. We're not going off of anything here. So Peter doesn't even know what we're talking about. But I wanted to thank Peter because no joke, everybody knows it's that time of day, it's that season in life that you're going through something and you're like, oh man, you know, I'm going to watch a movie because I need to watch a movie. And literally there's a stupid line in the movie that like is impactful or hits you or just speaks to you or, excuse me, or nowadays a podcast, you know, just something that you listen, you just trying to zone out and what I was sitting on my couch and I was like, oh shoot, they got video now because I'm a visual guy. Like I need to even listen to a visual podcast, and even if I'm not watching it. But I was like, my boys are talking about something good. Oh wait, the title, How to Make Hard Decisions. All right, son of a, they're probably gonna say something I need to hear, so I'm gonna click on that. And it was only like 20 or 30 minutes, pretty short, and I was like, go listen to it, and no joke, I was telling Blake, it was like you guys were reading my freaking mail. It was like each topic, every single one that you touched on, it like boom, it was just a punch in the face, in the heart, and I was like, man, that's exactly what I needed in that moment. And it's just hard, you know, it's just business. Business is freaking hard. Making decisions that affects people's lives. It's like the hardest freaking thing in the world. But no joke, after I listened to that podcast, I think I listened to it on a Friday, and guess what I did? Or no, it was a Thursday, and I was like, I'm going to talk to the guys tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
I didn't. But I talked to him on Monday.
You did on Monday, okay.
Because I set a date. I
Yeah.
set a timeline. I was like, okay, I put it into play. That's when we're going to have this hard talk.
Yeah.
That's when I'm going to do it. It helped. And it helped lower that huge monster that I was creating. And we had the conversation. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about that we kind of touched on last time, but isn't it crazy when there's a situation that it's so hard to talk about, so hard to bring up, and then you do it, and what actually happens is you create so many different solutions to problems you didn't even realize you had. Not even the problem that you need to talk about. And that's exactly what happened. Like
it exposed other issues.
Yeah, exposed other issues that we just didn't even realize we were struggling in. And we made immediate decisions to like, nope, this is how we're doing this. This is how we're doing this.
Right.
And literally it like brought relief in areas to where I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that was going on.
Yeah.
And so, man, it was so good. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, yep, contacting Blake. I'm going to see if Blake and Peter can jump on our podcast just to share that, because you guys have so much good insight on that.
You know what's kind of interesting here about when we kind of hit on this just a little. Like I feel like this is maybe that transition into the deeper topic. But what we talked about, what happened for you when you finally did deal with it was clarity, creativity, new solutions. What happens though in our brains before we do that and when we're not making the hard decisions is you talked about that monster. Monsters only grow with time.
Yeah.
And the more time you put into it, our brains think, I'm going to come up with more solutions.
Yeah.
I'm going to have all the solutions in the world before I deal with this problem. Yeah. And the monster got bigger than all your solutions because you didn't come up with solutions. You came up with avoidance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then by the time you got to the monster, you were ready to fight and you had like a limp sword. And I know that's probably not the thing. You got a limp sword and you're fighting a monster 10 times your size.
Yeah.
So
no, true.
It's just like, I think that is really where the focus has got to change to, is how do we not allow the monster to become that big?
Yeah. The interesting thing I think about, like because we didn't talk about this last time, the monster analogy, and that's interesting to me because I think like if you look at like, all right, let's say like little children, whenever you're a kid, I know when I was a kid, I had some specific things I had to do to ensure that the monsters under my bed and in my closet wouldn't get me. Right. And so like, as long as the closet door was closed, they couldn't escape and get out. As long as I had my feet up
under
and my blanket tucked.
That's right.
They can't get in.
Do you still do that?
Still. To
I
this
still
day.
do it today.
Can't not do it. Because they can't get you. It's a scientific fact.
Our bedroom right now is like so freaking hot. And Lindsay's like, just take the blanket off you. And I'm like, honey, I didn't ask you. You don't understand what I'm going. It's just something I've been doing. She's like, what is it? And I'm like,
I can't get into it right now.
It's just deep, okay?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
no, but
once this posts, I'm gonna go ahead and text her the link for it so she knows.
you bitch.
how dare you?
Also, so his wife can get a lovely view.
Yes.
Just in case you haven't seen
I'm just
this,
really
honey.
comfortable in your podcast now.
Hey, I love
It's
it.
the second time on. He's really comfortable.
I was nice and looking good, and
Yeah.
I came
You mean
from
like
meeting, and I was
over
like, I gotta.
I'm all buttoned up just to compensate for you.
I want to say
that.
I shaved, but I just don't grow hair.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's all right.
I guess
I did trim up. A little on the neck.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. That's good. Good for you, man. Good for you. I hate you. Go ahead.
So what I was saying,
Sorry.
so whenever we're children, I think back to those times, and it's like a lot of kids deal with the like being afraid of monsters thing, right? And a common thread that you see with most kids is, what is the solution to being afraid of the monsters? What do you have to do? Do you guys know? Anybody?
Turn the lights on.
Turn the lights on.
Yeah.
That's because that removes the fear, right?
Bring the
Let's
light.
go.
And then so it's like you were talking about saying like, once I made a decision to actually step forward and like, all right, now we're gonna like have the talk. You brought that into the light. You brought clarity to it. There was no longer fear. The monster can't grow whenever it's exposed, whenever it's out there. There's like with addiction or things like that, they always tell you like you got to confide in somebody. You got to talk about it. You have to open up about what's going on, because as long as things are concealed inside, as long as things are buried inside of us, that's where stuff festers.
Yeah.
That's where stuff grows in a very unhealthy way. But whenever we shed light on things, like that junk can't grow.
Yeah. What is it? That story of you can light a match in a very, very dark cave, there's going to be light, and it's going to light that sucker up. And that, you know, and if we're just using an analogy, your guys' podcast was that match. It was that start of lighten that load, even of just like, man, okay, I got to talk to the guys. I'm bearing too much of this weight on my own. When I have a team that wants to help. It's not, you know, it's not these work environments that we hear about and we see that it's just like, oh, I can't go to the boss because, you know, I don't want to upset him or this and that, or I can't go to my fellow worker because he's just not going to get it. It's like, no, they're in it with you. They probably have the same thought, but now that you're coming to them, it's building a confidence in them to actually go to the leader to have a conversation to bring some relief and just resolution to stuff. So, it was huge for us. I haven't carried any of that stuff that like, I was just throwing fuel on the fire of all the scenarios of what it could have been.
Imagination took over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you did bring it out in the light, and once you had that conversation, you said earlier there were other things that came out of it that you didn't realize were even a thing. But before you get to that point, was the initial issue as big as you had made it in your mind?
No, it really wasn't. It was. Again, I know we're going to be jumping back a little bit to our last podcast, but the biggest thing that was brought to light is I had, was just, I'm not my guys' provider. And that was the biggest thing, because I was like, no, like when people ask me, it's like, yeah, so like how many employees you got nowadays, or, this and that. And I'm like, I always like, oh, I got like 5 families. Like, I don't have to feed 5 families. I got to feed 1. And I'm doing a disservice to those guys because, God ordained them to be the providers of their family. That's their role. But our ultimate role is to lean on the ultimate provider, and so I was just dealing with this thing. I was like, no, like, I got to make sure that they get a paycheck. It's like, no, I don't. I just got to make sure I know I'm doing my job as the leader to get new business and to create new opportunities and to add, just to network and hopefully have some doors open up so new business comes in. But if not, I need to have the conversation, which was hard, of, hey guys, like we all love what we do and we get the privilege of loving what we do. It might not look like it's looked these years. Like it was really hard for me to be like, hey Jared, hey Corey, hey Jordan, I know I just took you from another job that like paid you every 2 weeks and it wasn't an issue, but like I'm gonna need you all to get part-time jobs so you can go work those jobs to take care of your family, and then then the other half of your day you're going to come in, we're going to continue to do what we're doing. Like that in my head was just no, that cannot happen. But in reality, we're going to have to get creative, and ever since we had that talk, things are still tight and money sucks, like every business for the most part, but like
preach.
We're figuring out. We've had some doors open up. We've had some things change drastically since we've had that conversation. And I'm just trying to do what I know to do best, and that's to be an entrepreneur and to meet and connect and really just help this thing keep on going.
Yeah, I think also one of the things through your guys' conversation that especially I picked up last time was the clarity that was brought about things actually had to do a lot with expectations of one another and expectations of roles and expectations of all these other things. And I mean, I heard this recently and it knocked me on my ass. It said unclear expectations or premeditated resentments. And I was like, well, ain't that true shit? Like that is just, it opened your eyes to know that if we are not clear about goals, or clear about monsters, or clear about all these things, and then the expectation as a team to get creative and figure out whose responsibility is what and who's going to flank this side and come around here to take this monster on, we're going to have premeditated resentments. And I'm going to guess, just because I've sat in your place, you get resentments are easy to come up, frustrations and irritations, and they don't know what I'm going through, which, by the way, is your fault too.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know what I'm fighting. Well, of course they don't, because you haven't given a clear expectation. You just want to be a punk ass bitch about it.
I just want to hold on to it, you know?
Yeah.
I get it. But that's like, this is why we got to flesh this stuff out to talk and say, man, we can't have unclear expectations and unclear accountability with one another. We have to, like, the monster needs to get defeated by turning on the freaking light on all areas.
This podcast is sponsored by F&, Inc. Why give a chunk of your hard-earned dollars to ink monopolies?
Your income deserves to stay in your pockets.
Not only does F&, Inc. cost less than the standard plastisol ink, but it also works just as effectively, if not better.
It's a low-cure ink, and it's short-bodied, creamy, make it extremely easy to work with.
The 15 ready-to-use colors can be pulled straight from the bucket or used to make custom colors, since it also doubles as a mixing system, Jared. Did you know that?
I actually did know it was a mixing system, but it's not all.
Oh.
F&, Ink's got 8 new specialty inks and additives. A printer's only limit is their creativity.
Put your foot down.
Take a stand.
Against these plastisol ink prices.
So earlier we were talking about like ink monopolies and stuff, and how they just kind of dictate the market and dictate pricing and stuff like that. And here's the thing, F&, Ink said, F that.
And that's why you should try it out. And if you want to, head over to fn.ink to learn more about.
That's not fnink.com. That's fn.ink. That's where you want to go. Link will be in the description.
Learn more.
Go check that out.
Try it out.
There's some people that are naturally more able to have a confrontational interaction with somebody and like not avoid it as much. There's a large percent of the population that will avoid confrontation at any cost. They typically marry each other, I found. guess which one my wife is. I've always just, my family, the way I was raised was just, my dad never let us avoid stuff. We had to deal with it immediately. Everybody sits down in the living room and we're going to talk it out. And I hated it. It was uncomfortable. I mean, that was my dad's worst punishment he ever did to me. He never spanked.
That's a good dad, man.
That is a good one.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I remember, like, I got whipped as a kid and I got punished, had things taken away, grounding and all that kind of stuff. The worst punishments I've ever experienced were the 4-hour sit-down talks in the living room with my dad sitting there silently for half of it.
Staring at you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
dad.
this is, hit me. And then let me go. What are we doing? And he knew what he was doing. We're going to sit here in this uncomfortable place, and you're going to think about all of these things until I'm ready to let you go somewhere else. And it was a nightmare. But I'll tell you something else. Worked like a dream.
Yeah, it did.
Like, I hated that so much. And I remember making decisions and being like, I really don't want to have to. I think I'm not going to do that. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to go to this party and sneak out tonight because I don't want to deal with that later.
I don't want to sit for 4 hours.
The bottle up mentality, right? That's what we're talking about here, is when the monster gets bigger, the more you shake up the 2 liter of soda.
Exactly.
And then you're like, finally, you can't. And then you just open it up and it gets everywhere. Like, that's our problem, is we are not willing to deal with things until it's so much that we finally deal with it, and then it's just destruction. And that can happen a couple times. And it'll continue to happen, but it needs to happen less, because like a team, if that is the only way you deal with things, that team's going to dissolve quick. You're not going to want to deal with that kind of stuff.
You said something that sparked a thought in my brain about comfort, right? You were in that uncomfortable place, sitting there, having your dad stare at you, right? And from a cereal bottler, something I've done my life, and I'm working on not doing that, right? Actively working on that. You get comfortable with what you know. And what I know is anxiety and stress and resentment and frustration. All those things become a part of me holding those in and not making decisions actually feels better in my brain than just getting it out in the open.
Yeah.
Than just sitting down and saying, okay, guys, here's where it is. Here's where we stand. And then that actually relieves that pressure.
Because it became like a place of comfort for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because it was known, it was normal.
I knew exactly what was going on. I understood it from my perspective.
Yeah.
And I could handle it.
And somebody could sit there and explain to you all the reasons of why it's the most unhealthy way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I know it.
Right.
I feel it though, and I'm able to process through this.
Yeah.
Without having to like go outside of my comfort zone much.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yeah. Well, because what's the scariest thing in the world for most people is just unknown.
Yeah.
It's fear is. I mean, that is fear in a nutshell.
for
Just
sure.
like not being able to be aware of what's happening or no control. I mean, that messes people up.
Yeah. And the brain is crazy powerful.
Yeah.
And I think this is where, like, I see this for reasons of like, why do I do visualization? Why do I do those things? It's because your brain doesn't know the difference between actual and imaginative. Wake up in the middle of the night sweating because you had a bad dream. Why did your body respond that way? Because your brain actually doesn't know the difference there, which also is true when building monsters.
Yeah.
Is you're making this thing so much bigger and you're waking up or not actually going to sleep and just closing your eyes for a second, waking up and you're like, something's going to happen. This is the end of the world. Our brain's powerful and we need to separate that. So my question is, how do you do that? Like, how do you lean into tension more often on purpose?
Well, you have to put yourself in that position intentionally sometimes. I mean, like, I think that, and not like not going out and seeking confrontation. Don't go punch the first guy you see, but like, maybe. But
I don't know, man.
No, I don't recommend violence. I don't recommend assault and battery. But
for sure.
But I do recommend if you are frustrated with somebody, have that conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not right away.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to wait a few days to work this up.
Yeah.
But like me and my wife had to come up with a compromise because we fight very differently.
Yeah.
Very differently.
Good point.
And we had, and I tell new couples all the time whenever I meet new people, I'm like, hey man, you need to learn how to fight with your wife.
Yeah.
Like that's important. Learn how to fight. Like, what do you mean? You should try not to fight. It's like, no, that's inevitable. You're going to fight.
Dumb.
Yeah.
That's
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It is. It's a terrible strategy.
Yeah.
Your strategy is to not ever fight.
You're a
with person.
boxer.
Yeah. Don't ever fight. It's stupid. No. But if you learn how to do it well, and you learn how to do it well with the person you're doing it with, it becomes more of a dance then.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to have a partner to do a dance properly.
That's right.
So me and my wife had to learn, like, I am very strong with words. I am very, I can make you say sorry for something I did, you know?
Yeah.
And for somebody like her who is the opposite, who is willing to just apologize to end the argument, it's a very dangerous and volatile combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to get to a place where I wasn't being a manipulative jerk and twisting everything around. And she had to get to a place where she actually expressed what her emotions were doing and how she was really feeling about something instead of just saying, no, I'm sorry, it's all fine.
Yeah.
So we were both at fault.
Yeah.
In different ways. And but we had to learn how to, like, okay, I can't do this, you can't do that, and we need to find, when I'm mad, maybe we need to take a little bit because I know what I do when I get angry. So maybe let's just take a little bit, but let's also not wait 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's come in here, let's set a time frame, and let's come in and say, okay, here we go. It's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit, but it's going to be really fun afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, so if time grows the monster, then time should be the thing we fight, not the monster.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that Peter and I have done, come here, my work wife, thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
We have set up a weekly or bi-weekly. It never goes more than 2 weeks because we become persnickety little bitches. Yeah. And what we do is call it a same page meeting. And we get together and we just, hey, what's going on? Where's your head? That's usually our first question with one another. Where's your head?
Yeah.
Are you pissed? Are you mad? I mean, we're getting really good at just, like, as a visionary and an integrator of the vision, like, it's real easy for us to get off. And he's like, I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going that way and we're supposed to be going this way. And he's like, where was that conversation? And so instead of doing that, these same page meetings that we have are just, I mean, It is not suit and tie, sit down and get your bullet point and PowerPoint about how we're going to talk. It usually involves a cigar and bourbon, and we're just, let's talk.
Yeah.
Where do you want to see this go? Hey, I've been working on this the last few weeks. Is this what you're looking for? What's most important now? What is the win? What's most important now? And it's this. Well, I've been working on this because last time we talked, you said this, and it's clarity, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you're right. I need to step off. I'm sorry. I'm being a bad husband here. You go ahead and do your thing. And so you have to have that stuff semi-scheduled, and it doesn't have to be immaculate. Yeah. But if you're fighting time instead of the monster, this is how you do it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it keeps you from getting to that place where you feel that resentment or that frustration, because you know you're going to have that conversation, and you know that that's going to be a time when both of you can be open and honest with each other and be able to move to that point where you're not just letting something grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I never thought about that like that, of like, because it's difficult to, whenever you're upset, you're typically upset at the source or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to like say like, well, don't be frustrated at the person, be frustrated at the situation. It's like, yeah, but the person pissed me off.
Yeah.
So those are just Bible story type of responses.
You know what I mean?
Like they don't even play well.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like you can have those you can say all those those catchphrase things and all that stuff. That it's like, okay, but how do I practically apply this stuff? Like I want to be able to actually move forward and have progression and not just spin the wheels. Mm-hmm. And so, but having that like an actual tangible, visible thing of like, okay, I'm going to fight time on this and make sure that that's my focus of getting in front of it, getting ahead of it. Versus me and my wife, we're frustrated at each other now, but we've also agreed that we chose each other to be frustrated with the rest of our lives, right? Like I choose you to do this with and be 100%. Frustrated with you. And so, but using time as that focus point, I guess, of like, okay, well, let's get ahead of that so it's not way worse in a month. Just don't ever say anything.
Please share with them, and I promise I'm not pointing out your flaws. Just how you describe to me.
I'm not even gonna let you finish that. First of all, how dare you? Second, who do you think you are?
No,
continue.
It brings Toby. I love when you tell the story of how you say, so I'm like, how is it?
Okay, I already know what you're saying. All right. So this is my
quick.
Yeah, I do. All right. So, I've used this analogy a lot because this is what my dad explained our personalities. And so I was like, oh yeah, that is me. That makes sense. And I'm a visual guy. So like, I love the analogy here. So my wife and her entire family are TNT. Short fuse, big boom, debris settles. Hey, we're good. Okay, I feel so much better after that. And they all do it. It's the big freak out. It's the big moment. It's the aggressive, like crying, yelling, screaming, ah! And then 5 minutes, I'm serious. They're all, we love each other. Everything's fine.
Wow.
My family, me and my father specifically, do not operate that way at all. So my dad explained it, and this is how I've tried to explain this to people, as they get to know me, is I'm like a nuclear warhead. There's a lot of things that need to happen to make that boom happen, right? There's a lot of things. It takes me a long time to get there. I don't have a short fuse. There's a sequence. There's multiple keys that have to be turned at the same time. Sure. We have to have Congress, and everybody's got to get before I get to this place,
Jared's
right?
angry, and it's an act of Congress.
But then when that boom happens, there's fallout.
Yeah.
It's not 5 minutes later. It's, we got radiation, and then you got to deal with the radiation poisoning. I hope you were in your shelter, buddy, because, and I recognize that's not the healthiest thing.
Yeah.
Can I just preface that? I recognize that. Okay. However, it is a tendency. It's a natural tendency that I lean towards. I've been working on it, but, it's not pretty. Me and my dad are both the same way. We're pretty patient as far as like when real anger things happen. Not like little annoyances, but like, I'm really mad. Yep. And then when I get to that place, I'm no longer thinking about, I don't think clearly anymore. Now I'm trying
to just stop after thinking. I'm no longer thinking.
True.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because now I'm now I'm trying to hurt you because I'm upset.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
And you need
Yeah.
a diplomatic work of the UN to fix
Yes.
relationships.
Because
and
I had to realize that about myself, because in the first couple of years when me and my wife were married, it was rough, man, because we didn't know how to fight. And she would do her TNT boom, and we'd have 15 of those happen where she would explode and then just be fine. I'm like, well, that's annoying. And then it progressed and got worse and worse.
Annoying. And
then finally I would just, mushroom cloud. And she's like, what's happening? And I'm like, no, my goal is to make you cry now.
Yeah.
And listen, I know that's not good. We're much better now. And so we don't fight like that anymore.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
But this is a natural tendency that I deal with. And so I had to learn how to be angry with people. And usually, if I have conversations ahead of time and I don't wait and I don't let it get to that place of me just saying, all right, well, I'm just being patient with them. It's like, no, let's talk about this now, because if we don't, there's going to be, it's going to be some problems later down the road. So, but I think that's important to recognize what your natural tendencies are.
Yeah.
If you can pinpoint those things, because it's not always easy to judge yourself, but if you can have somebody close to you look at you and be like, hey, this is how you handle confrontation. And you
need to realize that everybody does it differently. Like, it's not there are 2 ways to fight. No, there are a million ways to fight. And true relational growth with people, teams where you can go accomplish things, you got to know your relationship. You got to know your people, and you got to know how they fight, how they process, because otherwise you're going to be the person who's lighting their short fuse always.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more that goes into that than we're just making shirts.
Yeah.
100%. Jared, the reason I wanted you to share, because the visual, I'm telling you, it's going to help someone. It really is. And it was, here's the thing. I'm just like you, Jared. That's the reason why it resonated with me so much, because what did I do? Guess what? I was building a freaking nuclear warhead.
Yes.
I was
launch sequence was.
Oh wait. Okay. Yep. I'm gonna add that, because that's gonna add some disaster. Add that, and then boom, blow up. And that's why I relate so much. But that analogy is just it really is. It's so good. So I promise I wasn't.
Do you guys have a Dunzo list?
Here's Jared.
What's that?
You have a Dunzo list?
Explain. Go further.
People you're Dunzo with.
Oh, my to kill list. I'm just kidding.
Kill list. Wow. Speaking of atomic
Hey,
bombs.
quick question, just unrelated. I'm not on that list, am I? Just not that it matters.
I just go to the Billy Madison. They would put the lipstick on.
I
man.
didn't even think about it.
Fun fact, I rode in the elevator with Steve Buscemi one time when I was in New York City.
No way.
Yeah. Didn't
That
say
is
a word
so
to him,
cool.
though. Didn't say anything.
Sure,
That's
I
fun.
get that.
Because I think that's annoying if I'm out to dinner with my wife and somebody's like, hey, dude, like your movies.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
So
I actually really appreciate you sharing that, because until this moment, I would not have been able to paint that picture for myself.
Yeah.
As that I am that person too.
Yeah.
And my wife is much more like your wife.
Yeah.
In that it's the TNT, it's the explosions, and then it goes away, and then it explodes and it goes away. Yeah. And I fought against that for years unknowingly by always pushing for a conversation immediately.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always help either. Sometimes there is time where you need a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My wife loves the quick conversation. She's like, let's fix it now. And I'm like,
That's me.
I haven't even processed it.
Right.
Right.
Got to give me a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's easy for us to look at our.
Sorry, guys.
They're having a moment back there.
We were.
We mean that we're husband and wife and more than
totally.
just
Well,
business.
that's what I was about to say. Is it's easy to look at our romantic relationships at home and apply these kind of things to that, because it's the person we fight with the most, unfortunately. But you can really apply these things to your work relationships and your professional relationships. Because like we talked about last time, you see them more than anybody.
Yeah.
You spend more time at work than you do at home most of the time.
Yep.
And so I think being able to recognize your natural tendencies and your coworkers' natural tendencies.
Yeah.
And just being aware of that. Learn how to fight with your coworkers.
Yeah.
Or just make sure you're stronger than them.
That's right. Gosh. Do you guys, the love language stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That gets so focused on one type of relationship that we miss that is very true. And if you're there more than anywhere, where do you care almost most about feeling valued?
Sure.
And that's really what love languages are all about, is how am I valued?
Yeah.
No, it's very true.
Yeah. 100%. That, just say for the record, that is not a good book to do for pre-marriage counseling. It's not.
In case y'all were wondering.
Hold on, I want to know why, because
saying,
I
you need
actually
to go into
enjoyed
this.
it.
Okay, so
Yeah, there's got to be a story.
all right, man.
And then
He's like, I don't know if I can
opinion
get this one.
afterwards because I kind of agree with you, but I want to know why.
Cool.
Well,
I kind of think they're both
okay,
wrong, so
so-
I'm curious.
We'll see.
Cool. Perfect. Well, this is getting super deep and super spiritual. So, no joke. So, my wife and I did not kiss my wife until our wedding day. And
just like 2 weeks before. But
yeah.
Show offs.
So here's the thing, because I was doing this like biblical thing called courting my wife, and I really, I had a not so fun past that I didn't want to start my marriage of now 12 years with my wife off on a bad foot. And so that was an area to where I needed to hold myself accountable. However, my love language is physical touch.
Watch out.
So didn't know that until a few years into the marriage. But I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm a acts of service. If oh, hey, babe, you did the dishes for me. Thank you. Or, oh, hey, babe, you did my laundry. Or, oh, thank you so much. That just fills my love tank. Hell no, it didn't. It did not. It did not. But my wife coming up to me at the end of the day and just giving me a hug. Yep, that's all I needed. Mm-hmm. Like, I just needed, like, that's it. And so, you just have to, like, especially, just in the spiritual aspect of it, I really, I just wanted to honor my wife and not make past mistakes with my future wife. And so that's what I did. So it doesn't work real well unless that is talked about very that point, and physical touch and just knowing that, oh, that's a byproduct of after you get married.
Yeah.
And it goes deeper. But
Or do you think it's that you just weren't real with yourself?
oh, probably a little of that too.
Yeah, shut up, Blake.
I don't like that. I'm not words of affirmation, so shut the hell up, okay?
That answer's not what I wanted to hear in this moment.
I do not like that.
I agree with that, though. That was my concept, or my thoughts behind it were, it's valuable if you can be honest with yourself in that moment. And let's face it, most 20-year-olds probably can't.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know, like at that point, I didn't know who I was.
Yes.
I didn't know everything about myself. I'm still learning all those things, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, like, starting out, it's good to know them, but I don't think it's necessary to stick with it because it changes.
It does.
I
And
agree.
that's the other aspect. It's seasons of life.
Exactly.
Everything's a season. It's like, now it's like, when my wife, like it's changed, like, like the physical, of course I love my wife kissing me, hugging me, and all of the above. But man, when she goes, I trust you. Whew. Like, you have this crazy business that's ever changing, changes how we, our kid, like everything's combined. I trust you as the leader. Okay. I'm juiced. I'm good. Like, let's go another day. Let's freaking go another step. Like, it doesn't matter because you said you trust me to be the provider over my family. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I agree 100%. It just changes over time. But again, they all work great. Mm-hmm. They all should be present.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But know which one is going to benefit in that season of life.
Yeah.
And do that as much as possible.
Yeah, and if it changes, that also makes us stay accountable to, like, not just thinking we understand. We love putting things in boxes. Yeah. That's the problem with the boxes is you got into another box, but I've always believed that if I just give you chocolates every day as a gift, that you're going to love me.
Yeah.
just doesn't fly, and it shouldn't, because we're complex people who don't even understand ourselves.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and it's funny because like the compartmentalizing aspect is typically a male thing.
It's sexist, but go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it is though. I mean, like the way that the male brain works is like, my wife, we talk about this all the time. Like, I have very specific places for things in my brain, and obviously I'm speaking in generalities. Obviously, there's, of course, there's not 100% guaranteed, but whatever. But my wife is like, she's like, my brain doesn't work that way. She doesn't have boxes for things. She doesn't have compartments for anything. Everything. She described it to me, because for the longest time I was like, why can't, that doesn't matter right now. We're not dealing with that right now. And she's like, but it is affecting me right now. And I'm like, but why? We're doing something else. And she had to explain to me, it's like, because like my brain and like my emotions and everything is like a big mixing bowl. It's just a mixing bowl of everything. And good. So she was like, so yeah, me being frustrated about something at work and being overwhelmed that the sink is full of dishes right now does not want to make me go to the bedroom and have sexy time. She's like, because it is all connected.
Oh. Yeah.
It's all connected. Right. And I just I couldn't understand that. I'm like, but the dishes can wait, babe.
Yeah, right.
Let's go to the bedroom.
Let me show you how sexy time works.
I got a trick to show you, which is just me dancing, But it's just like
that works.
But it for her, it was such a just learning how. And I don't even know how we got here.
I'm very curious how we went from hard conversations to other things that may be hard. Oh, this is unbelievable.
I don't know how we got it, but I'm just saying, but learning that like not everybody doesn't compartmentalize the way that you do.
Yeah.
Not everybody doesn't, think about and process things the way that you do. I think that was a big thing for me in preventing me from going to that nuclear meltdown mode. Yeah. Was learning that like, not everybody has the same thought process, and it allowed me to give a lot more grace to people and not be so quick to like, well, you're done. Like you're talking about that list. It's like cut off. I do have a cutoff limit.
Yeah.
But
like, you got your 10th punch.
Yeah, it's more of an investment thing for me though. Oh, yeah. It's like we talked about the bank account thing before, like with relationships and with work relationships, because that was one of the things Jonathan he was afraid of having that conversation with us, and I was like, dude, you've got enough in the account that you can make some withdrawals here.
Yeah.
You've made some deposits, and we got your back. Like we trust you. We know who you are.
Right.
We know your character. We know your personality. So you can make some withdrawals when you need to.
Yeah.
That's allowed. That's what brotherhood's about.
That's right.
That's what relationships are about. And but I do have a point where at some point I'm like, okay, this is no longer a good investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I don't like you as a person. It doesn't mean that I want bad things for you or that I'm even angry.
Right. Yeah.
It just means at this point in our lives, and I've had several friendships that have gone this way.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends growing up. We're just no longer connected.
Trust.
And it's not because I hate you or anything like that. It's just, brother, we moved on.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's no longer a good investment of my time to continue to reach out for something that's just not reciprocated. And that's fine. We can be there. I'm not upset about it.
Right.
Call it what it is, though. And let's just say we're going to invest our time into other places that are more important for us right now.
Yep.
And so I think that's important to know whenever you're dealing with relationships and stuff, is that bank account that, not that you should keep a ledger against all your friends, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have that back and forth. Make sure you're making deposits too in those relationships.
Yeah. Hey, Peter, I want you to touch base on go over to that podcast in your guys' head of like some of those main points. Can you remember any? Don't watch the video.
Hard talks are hard, man.
Hard talks are
so hard.
I vividly do recall the beginning of it, talking about having an issue on Thursday and saying you to deal with it on Friday and then Monday, and I was really glad to hear that you dealt with it on Monday.
Yeah. Yep.
Are you talking about our podcast?
Yeah, just like
podcast.
Why is it making hard? Oh my God. Okay.
Pull up their notes.
I mean, I have it right here. So we've got all our notes because we.
We're nerdy and dirty.
That's right. Super nerdy here.
No. Just some of those points were they'll be good little quick add-ons, and we can wrap stuff up. But one of the things that
Blake, I'll let Blake take one of them, but one of them for me that I brought up was, you're going to survive this.
Yeah.
And that was something Blake had said, and it really resonated with me. We've had a lot, my family and I, my wife and I have walked through a lot of shit this last year. The last 12 months have been a lot of hell.
Yeah.
Some of it unknown, some of it self-induced.
Yeah.
Just being real here. And we're still here.
Yeah.
We push through it. We survive through it, right? But our brains tell us that there's a stop. Our brains tell us that once we actually hit that moment and we bring this out in the light, our lives will be over and we're going to be done. And that's it. And there's no seeing past it.
Yeah.
And you get to that point where you can't see past it then either. And all it does is continue to cripple you and keep you from moving to that point. But you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
You will. I mean, you're here today, right?
Yeah. Had that conversation.
Jared's here, Corey's
yeah.
like, you guys are here.
Yeah.
You're growing, you're continuing, you're moving. That it's not going to be the end for you.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the only thing that kind of wraps it up is there is an end to all those things. And the monster tells you it's not, but there's an end. And as soon as you have the clarity, man, it all feels so much better when you have clarity.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have had the talk. Just say, I'm talking to them Monday.
Yeah.
There's the end.
That did it. It really did. It was, I mean, they knew something was up, but like for me, it was like, oh, sweet, the tension is over. They didn't even know there was. I mean, they did. They knew something was going on with me, but I didn't fill them in yet, and it wasn't even about them. It was about me. And it was about some stuff I personally was dealing with. Because I got to talk with my bros.
Yeah.
We brought stuff to light, and it was awesome. It was.
Yeah. That's good.
And the thing is you were so nervous about having that conversation because you didn't want to have the conversation of, like you said, like, well, I gotta go do part-time jobs. Money's tight right now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
We haven't had that. Yeah, money's tight, but we're getting work in. We're taking care of business. We've had some crazy thing happen with our press. It's like half operational right now.
Oh no.
And it's just some things. It's just part of it. It's just not. We don't. Some of it was self-induced. Some of it was not.
Yep.
Some of it's just crap happens and it just was what happened. But we're working through that and trying to we're not running super efficiently, and so trying not to fall behind, and then and we're always fighting our schedule. That's just something we fight constantly with the nature of what we're doing. But even with all that stuff, we haven't missed any pay periods. We haven't. It's always there. We always find a way to make that happen.
Yep.
And a lot of that's been Jonathan making a lot of sacrifices over the last couple of years, making stuff happen, and going out and doing other extra things, but once we had that talk, once we had that conversation, we instantly had plans. We instantly had plan of action that we put into place like that day. That changed a bunch of the frustrations that could have led to resentments. That could have morphed into that anger and frustration.
There is an aspect that I will say that I maybe we haven't talked about, and that's prepping for that hard talk. There is something I think you can do. I don't think coming up with everything you're going to say is the best thing, but I think the person who's going to give the hard talk needs to do is get real with themselves and stop talking here and start talking here out loud. And that sounds weird. I know that sounds like super woo-woo, but when you go, I am afraid I'm going to lose a friend. I am afraid I'm going to lose a team. I am afraid that all the money's going to hit and I'm going to have to live out on the street with a sign asking for money, and my kids are going to be there and they're not going to have an education, because our minds go there here.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you say it here, or you get someone you trust who's not part of that hard situation, and you say those things, it gets out of your head. And you can just have that clarity to go into the conversation, and you can even tell them. Like sometimes I love when people say those things to me and they're like, oh, I'm afraid they're going to say this, or I'm afraid they're going to do this. I always go, tell them. Go tell them, I'm afraid you don't blah. Like we just had a issue between Pete and one of our other guys, and we had to have another same page meeting. And both of them at both times have said like, oh, I just feel like this. And I go, I got a good idea. Just tell them. Just tell them that. It sounds too simple to be true. Tell them, I feel like you don't trust me in this.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say. And then you just got everything out on the court.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good too, because like, so my wife, I'm using her as an example because that's the relationship that I'm most familiar with. But she, you know, she is a verbal processor. And there's been multiple times why I was saying it's important to learn how to fight. You know, it's important to learn how to fight with any relationship, you know, that you're going to have, is that she had to learn that about herself. She didn't know she was a verbal processor. So she would sit there in her mind, and she's pretty analytical, and so she would just dig into every possible scenario and go to the worst places. And everything was going to fall apart. Like anytime we had an argument, it's like, he's going to leave, he's going to divorce me. You know, it's just like, none of those were possibilities at the time.
I am your wife, by the way. I know I'm your wife.
I was gonna say, it sounds like my wife too.
Yeah, she would go to that. She would go to that place, just instantly the worst. And then, and it could be about anything. And then she now learned that half the time when she says things out loud, she goes, "Oh, I don't feel like that."
Right.
And it blew my mind whenever she explained that to me. She's like, I learned that, like, if I said it out loud, if I heard myself say it, then I would say, well, hold on, that's not how I feel. She's like, and half the time I'll laugh at myself because it's just like, I don't feel that way. Why was I thinking that?
Oh my gosh.
And
your wife and I feel like I met my sister. This is awesome.
And so, I mean, just, you know, it's kind of a funny thing. It's just like, some people process that way. Some people need to like write things down, make lists of things, and you know, just, you got to figure out what your process is. But
I think everybody lies to themselves in their brain. Right. We all have this story that we tell ourselves, and whether it's a verbal processing or a written processing or something else, there is that lie that you tell yourself. Because I know for me, I had a meeting to go to last week, and I hyped myself up for it like crazy. Like, I mean, I was sitting there worried, and I was like, did I leave too much time? Did I not leave enough time? Are we gonna all show up and nobody's gonna talk and we're just gonna stare at each other? Right? And none of those things happened.
Right.
But I had a nice 40-minute drive to think about every single one of those things. Right? And the reality is, it was a great meeting. It was just enough time. We all spoke. We all had a great time. We all learned. We all grew a little bit. And it was awesome. But I don't feel that I'm a verbal processor. I feel that I am something else. I don't know yet. Still working on that one.
Still figuring that out.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a verbal processor. Like, it doesn't change. Like, me hearing me say it doesn't change my mind. Right? But like, yeah, I internalize a lot. Like, I think a lot. And I'll go over the conversations a lot. Like, I think that's how I process.
You do that too?
Like, I practice the conversation. Like, I practice what I'm going to say and what they're going to say.
In every scenario.
All of them. And to see which one and how I would answer it.
That's the one I have to prepare for, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm the spaghetti person. Your wife and I are the spaghetti people. We throw a whole bunch on the wall and we see if it sticks. And that's when we know it's right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Apparently that's the wrong way to make spaghetti, I learned.
No, it's not. You learned incorrectly.
Well, if you talk to Italians who make pasta,
I don't think they know anything about pasta. Italians.
They'll tell you that's the worst way, and they'll.
How dare you?
Yeah.
I've already got the shirt open. How dare you?
His shirt's been open this entire time.
I
love it so much.
That's great.
Corey's, that's going to be a thumbnail for sure.
Yes.
Awesome, guys. This has been so good.
It's naturally telling me not to, though.
Let's see. It's
Stop it.
2 o'clock. Yep. Nice hour and a half podcast. This one's a banger. Hope you guys, learned a lot about all of our wives. And
basically, so this was a therapy session for us, right? I think that's what we just did.
Freaking.
Hope you got something out of it, at least.
The good thing is it translates to everything: your business, your employees, your friends, your family, all of it. But yeah, this is it's been good. Again, check out Ridgeline Leadership Podcast. They got the visual and the audio. It's so cool that their electrical company and what they talk about, it's just life. It's the same thing. We're a screen printing company. We're a lot of things. We're just talking life here, people. These scenarios can happen in every situation, every job. Hope it's helping.
Yeah. Peter, Blake, thank you guys.
Yeah,
Really
thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Had a blast.
Great insight from you guys, and it's always a pleasure hanging out.
For sure.
Love you guys. See you on the next one.